the sinister reason your memory rewrites your past. In 2000, a rat in a New York University laboratory forgot a fear it had never lost. Its trainers hadn't erased the memory. They'd only reminded it of one. Every time you recall a moment from your life, you are not replaying it. You are rebuilding it from scratch. And to this day, neuroscientists still cannot fully explain what your brain loses or adds in that rebuild. The scientist behind the rat was Karim Nader, and in 2000 his idea was considered almost heretical. Textbooks taught that memory worked like a filing cabinet. You store an experience once, and after a short window it locks into long-term storage, stable and untouched. Nader trained rats to fear a tone paired with a mild shock. Weeks later, he played the tone again just to trigger the memory, then injected a drug that blocks the brain from building new proteins. The fear vanished. Not faded. Vanished as if it had never been conditioned at all. That single result cracked something open. If simply remembering the tone made the fear memory fragile enough to erase, then memory wasn't a locked file. It was a document that reopens every time you read it, and has to be resaved before it closes again. Scientists now call this reconsolidation. For a window of a few hours after you recall something, that memory sits in a chemically unstable state, capable of being strengthened, weakened, or subtly altered before it resolidifies. You cannot access a memory without briefly breaking it first. The obvious explanation was that this was simply decay. Old memories fade like a photograph left in sunlight, and what looks like rewriting is just entropy, information quietly leaking out with each passing year. It's a tidy theory. It matches what most people already feel about their own memory. And it would mean nothing sinister is happening at all, just ordinary loss, the same way a muscle weakens without use. But that theory breaks the moment you look at what memory researcher Elizabeth Loftus found. Loftus didn't just watch memories fade. She watched them fill in with details that never happened, delivered with total confidence. In her Lost in the Mall experiments, subjects were told a false childhood story about being lost in a shopping mall as a child. A third of them didn't just believe it. They elaborated on it, adding the color of the stranger's jacket, the sound of a mall intercom, emotions they swore they remembered feeling. Decay subtracts. This was addition. The brain wasn't losing data. It was manufacturing it and filing it under real, using the exact same machinery it uses to store things that actually happened. Here is the detail that makes it worse. Your brain has no tag that marks a memory as original versus edited. There is no read-only file anywhere in your skull. Every act of remembering pulls the memory out of storage, exposes it to your current mood, your current beliefs, whatever misinformation happens to be in the room, and then writes a new version back in its place, overwriting the old one. Studies on flashbulb memories, the kind people form during events like September 11th, found something unsettling. People's confidence in those memories stayed at nearly 100% for years. Their accuracy, checked against what they'd written down the day after, collapsed by nearly half. You don't feel the rewrite happening. That's the part nobody can account for. The edited version feels exactly as real, exactly as certain as the one it replaced. So what is it really? Some researchers call it adaptive updating, the brain keeping your threat assessments current instead of frozen in the past. That would explain why the rat's fear could be erased. But it fails to explain PTSD, where a single trauma memory intrudes decade after decade, seemingly immune to the softening that reconsolidation should provide, unchanged and razor-sharp when it should have been overwritten 100 times. Others call it simple confabulation, the brain filling gaps for storytelling's sake. But brain imaging shows real recall circuitry lighting up for false memories, identical to true ones. There is no scan that can tell the difference. Neither can you. Which brings us back to that rat, and the fear it lost simply by being asked to remember it. Every time you revisit a memory of your own life, you are opening that same unstable file and closing it again slightly changed with no signature, no version history, and no way to know what it looked like before. If the version of your past you're certain of has already been rewritten, quietly, without your permission, every time you've ever thought about it, then the question isn't what you've forgotten. It's how much of what you remember was ever true to begin with.